The program is facilitated by conductors, and at our center we have assistants, trained assistants, who are trained by the conductors. Each child has an assistant, or the parents in the youngster class, who are instructed by the conductor and help the child to achieve the goals that we work on.
Parental involvement's important, though, with any class, correct?
Yes, absolutely. As I mentioned before, in Hungary, it's mostly, the program is done almost exclusively by conductors and conductor students. Here, we heavily depend on parents carrying over whatever the kids learn here. And I'm not really saying that they need to do the program at home. Whatever we learned here, the kids need to be able to practice those skills. Let's say someone learns to walk with the tripod canes, those little blue canes. If they can't or won't practice that skill, it's going to take so much longer to get to the point that they can actually be independent with those canes. But if the parents take the time and make the effort to work on practicing those newly learned skills, obviously the learning process is going to be so much shorter.
What's the ultimate goal for any student in this program?
It absolutely depends on the child. As I mentioned before, we have different kids with different abilities. What we are trying to do, we set goals for each quarter, for each child. We are trying to achieve those goals quarter by quarter. The ultimate goal, obviously, to achieve their maximum potential. And it is different. We have different classes, different children. For some kids, the ultimate goal would be walking independently. Some other kids, it would be being potty trained, being able to use a communication device, being able to communicate with other people, or even being able to grab onto a toy. It truly depends on the child.
We're looking for independence, so we want to, is that what you hope these kids will become more independent, be able to do more on their own?
Yes, that's the ultimate goal, independence and being functional. And when I mean functional with that very supportive assistive technology devices. If I see a child who can walk with a walker and in a public school they're sitting in a wheelchair, it's just very wrong. Just very wrong to me. So I always feel like that independence, there's two different kinds of independence. You can be independent with a lot of support, with a power wheelchair, with a manual wheelchair, or with a communication device. But if you do have the skill to actually become an independent walker, a walking child, or someone who can speak, even just a little bit, but you can use a traditional way of communicating, that's definitely, for me, that's the goal, not to use a device.
What kind of children most benefit from this program?
We mostly work with children who have cerebral palsy, but we do have kids with other motor disabilities. Conductive education, as it's in its name, it's an educational program. It's about communicating with the kids, verbally instructing them, so that the children have to be able to follow some instructions. They have to be on a certain cognitive level to be able to follow the program, being able to understand what's going on around them, and kind of just realize that they're in a group setting, and just being able to interact with the other kids and the assistants and the conductor.
Before a child enters the program, they go through an assessment process. Can you tell us a little bit about what happens in that time?
It's that's obviously the first step of getting to know a child. Usually we get an assessment form that the parents fill out online. A conductor reviews that. We call back the prospect family. We talk to them. We fill out another prospect form just based on the questions that we ask. And if we we feel that the child would benefit or could benefit from the program, we set up an assessment. The assessment is usually an hour. The way I like to do my assessments, I like to talk to the parents a lot, because obviously the parents are the ones who know their kids the best. But at the same time, we obviously do some hands-on evaluation as well. I mainly focus on what I'd like to see from a child, if the child is willing to interact, if the child is willing to follow directions and able to understand directions, and we're pretty much evaluating their cognitive, social, and physical level. And if we feel that this is the program for the child, then we offer one of the classes that we have currently.
How did you first become involved in conductive ed?
I would love to tell you a beautiful story that I was committed since I was 10 years old, and that was my dream job. I do not have any siblings. I don't really have cousins either. I had my first cousin when I was 20, and I really don't have any special needs people in my family. It was really interesting. For some reason, I wanted to become a speech therapist. Don't ask me why. It just sounded really, really good. So that was my plan. And one of my best friends from high school, she went to this open day at the Petro Institute. International Petro Institute has an open day for prospect students, so you can check out the college, because it's a college itself. So if you enroll to that college, you can become a conductor, and only a conductor. It's not like universities here when you enroll and you can change your major throughout whatever. And my friend said that that it looks like a really good place to be at, and then I said, I'll go with you. And this is the studying there is extremely difficult, and it's not necessarily the theory part of it, but to follow the principles of conductive education and follow the rules that were set up way before us, like in the 40s and 50s. That was probably the most challenging thing in my life, but it was definitely worth it.
How long have you been involved in conductive ed now?
Well, if I count my college years, then it's been 16 years.
In that time, what's been your most memorable experience?
Well, there's one I will never forget. I'm assuming it's always the first, when I had the first student who actually learned to walk independently. And it was obviously it was very emotional. Everybody cried. But it was almost like I wasn't even expecting it to happen that day. I had a class only for four girls. There were only girls in the class. And this particular little girl was a twin. She had a twin sister. Her name is Cassie, and the other little girl is Nikki. And I always knew that Cassie had the potential to walk by herself, but we've been working on walking with one cane for so long that I didn't really think that she was ready to do this. And that one day I just said that we had a really, really long hallway. It was back in Minnesota when I was there. And then I had her stand by one end of the hallway, and I said, let's just try. That was the last thing we did that day. We were ready to go home, and I asked her, just try to take a few steps. And we were all standing, the assistants and her personal assistant, who's been with her for like 3 or 4 years, and I was teaching her for 2 years at that point. And I said, let's just try it. Why not? And then she literally walked the whole hallway, which was, I don't know how long. It was very, very long. It was a big building. And I think she actually surprised herself too. She just kept walking and walking. It's almost like, those movies when it's slow motion and you can recall every single moment of it. She walks, and when she got to the actual door, when she was ready to leave, everybody was in shock, and everybody was. I just looked around and everyone was crying, and it was probably the first best moment of my career.